Hi, it's Rachel Maldonado. Belief in the human spirit and desire to connect is the reason I want to tell your story and mine. And I'm with Jack Dona, a retired Master Sergeant. Tell me about this.
Well, it's a real privilege to be on, Rachel. I know we've been talking about this for a while. I've been a great admirer of your work, and you produce some really good product, very eloquent, very accurate, and I think that that's reflected in a lot of the guests that have chosen to appear on your podcast. And so I find it rather humbling that you reached out to little old me. But yeah, my name is Jack Dona. I'm Master Sergeant, retired United States Army. I spent roughly 4 decades working in the intelligence community. I was an intelligence electronic warfare aviation systems engineer. That's a big, long title, I know. But so here I am, and I'm here on your show. And again, it's a real honor and a privilege.
Wow, well, the pleasure is mine. And the intelligence community, for those who aren't familiar, tell me more about that.
Well, I worked. I started out in the Army and worked in aviation intelligence on various fixed wing platforms, and then from there I branched off into other areas, working in the intelligence computing, mainly in computers and on sensor heads. So after retiring from the Army, I went to work as a contractor for the Department of Defense, and so I've deployed with the Army, I've deployed with the Air Force, I've deployed with the Marines. I've even served on the USNS Observation Island, and also the USNS Invincible. So I've pretty much run the gamut from aviation systems to maritime systems to ground-based systems to national level systems. So it's been fun.
Wow, well, that does sound fun. And is there a military in your background, in your family?
Yes. My both sides of my family have served. My father is originally from Managua, Nicaragua, and when in the 40s, when the country fell to tyranny, to dictatorship, communism, the first Somoza, the family had to leave. So we were at once quite wealthy, very wealthy family, and my great grandfather saw the writing on the wall and got everybody out of the country. So my grandmother, with my father, escaped to Costa Rica, and it was there that she met my step grandfather, whose name was Jack Oswell, and he was a field director for the American Red Cross, and he was assigned to the Marine Corps detachment in San Jose, Costa Rica. And so that's how my father got to the United States. My grandmother married my grandpa Jack Oswell, and they moved to Moses Lake, Washington, and then later San Francisco. My father served in the Air Force. He did a tour in the Korean War and also 2 tours in Vietnam. I have a brother who's a retired lieutenant colonel. My other brother also served in the Army as a supply sergeant. So that's my father's side of the family. My mother's side of the family, they were plantation workers from Portugal and Spain. So my grandfather was a boat builder and also worked plantation. And so when the sugarcane plantations moved to the Caribbean, and then from the Caribbean, they moved to the Hawaiian archipelago, my family moved with, on my mother's side, moved with the company. So my mother's side of the family all became citizens in 1959 when Hawaii became a state. So that's my mother's side of the family. On that side, we've had people that have served, most notably, like my first name is Fernando, and I'm named after my grandfather and my uncle, who died as a prisoner of war. He was captured in 1950 in Korea, in South Korea, in the Battle of Daejeon, and so he was quite the man. I never met him, but it was always a very, very sad and poignant time of the year whenever Veterans Day came or Memorial Day came, because there had always been the hope in our family that my uncle would come home,
Mm,
but he never did. So
wow.
it was, sad. It's kind of a coincidence because this week is the anniversary in it was around 96 or 97 when my grandmother finally got the notification that my uncle, his name was Fernando Rivera Jr., she got the notification that his name had been found on the Tiger list, and he was finally confirmed as a KIA, killed in action. He was executed. He was forced marched all the way Daejeon, which is South Korea, all the way up to a town called Manpo, which is right on the Chinese North Korean border. And when he couldn't go anymore, they, when it was him and 21 other people, they just summarily executed him. It's sad, his remains are still there. All of my aunts and uncles are gone now, so it falls to myself and my older brother. We still get the death, the updates through from Department of the Army repatriations branch. We have hope that there was a few dozen remains that were returned in 2018, 2017 or 2018, and all of those remains go to Hawaii for forensic analysis. So we have some hope that eventually one day we will be able to see his remains interred at Arlington, but so far we still haven't found him yet. So
Wow.
yeah.
And for your family, how did they keep the memory alive, or what stories did they tell about him?
Well, it's interesting you asked that question. There were very few uh, uh, sons that were somebody drafted like my uncle was, and so in Hawaii, there's a few memorials scattered around the Pacific with my uncle's name on it. So and whenever there was any type of an event or any type of like Memorial Day or anything like that, my grandmother and my grandfather, well, till my grandfather passed away, they were always invited to all of these events, because there was only a handful of soldiers that died as prisoners of war from the state of Hawaii. So they were from other states, but from the state of Hawaii, he went in 1950. So Hawaii was not a very densely populated state,
Yes.
not like it is today. So we kept the memory alive mainly due to my grandparents, telling us stories about him. He was a very diminutive man like myself. He wasn't very tall, and he was a very gentle man. And I remember an interview that my aunt and my mom did, and they asked the question about, what do you think it was like for him there? And my aunt gave a reply that I found was very poignant. Basically, she said that he was a very kind and gentle man. Once we said goodbye to him, he was not going to make it to that war. He wasn't a tough man. He wasn't a Michael Young. He was just not gonna he was not gonna make it. So they all knew, and so these stories keeps his memory alive. This what you're doing right here keeps his memory alive. So,
Yes. And I think that there is, physical toughness, but there's also mental toughness that your uncle, he went this decision to fight for country and for freedom. This is
yes,
very important. And that mental toughness, this decision to do that, that is even more than what others choose to do. Also, just as important as the physical toughness.
absolutely. I mean, I can't imagine what it would be like to be, a young farm boy in old Hawaii. My folks settled in the northern part of Hilo, the Big Island, in the it's called the ancient city of Kukuhaili. That's the name of it. There's very few people there still because you had to have originally lived there, and I guess the village is preserved. So that's where they that's where they lived, and that's where they worked as a plantation workers. So I can't imagine what it would be like for, let's see, he was born in 1928. So he was 22 years old working out in the field, and all of a sudden got tapped on the shoulder, and the army said, "You got to go serve." So
Wow.
I can't imagine what that would be like, So
Yes.
yeah.
So in your family, you have family members who fought for the country for freedom. And then your family, they also escaped communism. And
Yes.
what do you think about that? The family, how they realized that communism could take over a country like that, their country.
You know, um, the warning signs have been going on for decades. And I started to see this creep into the fabric of our society, like around the late 70s, early 80s. You start to see it slowly creeping, this Marxist ideology. And it's insidious. It's insidious. Communism itself is diametrically opposed to, in my opinion, is opposed to human existence.
Mm,
Karl Marx. I mean, you could sum it up with what Karl Marx said. Karl Marx, when he was asked, could you boil down what communism is? And what he said was, and a lot of people don't catch this about what he said. What he said was, communism is basically the abolishment of all property. Now,
mm,
what people don't understand is what he was saying was not just physical property like your car, your home, this and everything,
mhm,
your actual physical self.
mm,
That's what he meant. The abolishment of private property, which means you don't belong to yourself. You can't make your own decisions. You belong to the state. And you see that very apparent, especially today with the Democrat Party. There is so much of this being exposed, and there's so much kowtowing to the Communist Party of China, and it's really, really surreal and unbelievable to watch because you have these titans of industry and you have the media embracing this ideology, and they're not going to get a seat at the table.
mm.
They think they're going to be able to keep all of their quote unquote stuff. Communism doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that. They and it's really disconcerting. It's really sad, especially to see young people embracing this toxic ideology. It's anti-human, and yeah, it's a big problem. It's a big problem, and we're coming to a culmination point. You know, we are either, and I've been saying this to a lot of people, the United States is going to be the last battleground for
Mm.
Marxism. We are going to fight the last battle against Marxism. Hopefully, the founding fathers laid down everything for us and we'll be able to right this ship peacefully. I have some real concerns, though, about the weaponization of the government, the weaponization of the intelligence agencies. All of these things are all driving, and you have to ask yourself the question, who is benefiting from all of this? The CCP, the Communist Chinese Party. So,
Yes.
but
And
that's all my opinion. That's my opinion. So,
right. And with your family coming from Nicaragua, do you remember what the family said about the signs that they could see the communism coming?
well, you know, it's interesting because back then, the old Spanish laws were still in effect. The old Spanish laws in Nicaragua basically said that if you were a female, you could not own property. Only the men, you know, could own could own titles to land and stuff. So what Somoza did, like all good tyrants, he began to conscript all of the males in our family into the military. So I have two uncles that I've never met. That one was in the army, and he died in a training accident, and then I have one that was in the Navy, and he accidentally fell off the ship. So that was why my grandfather saw the writing on the wall that basically they're killing off all the males, and then once that's done, the state comes in and says you can't own properties, you know, because females can own property. So he basically liquidated everything, and they all fled the country. They all came here to the United States. So we were fortunate. That side of my family was very wealthy, very prominent family. My full family name on my father's side is Dona Avilés de la Tarde Echeverría Infante de Mendoza. That goes all the way back to Spanish Mendoza, Spain. So we had doctors, we had lawyers, and they all fled the country because the writing was on the wall. And of course, today we see, you know, how Nicaragua is today. It's basically they're right now burning churches. They're completely eradicating religion because any type of Christian faith is, you know, is diametrically opposed to communism. So, you know, Daniel Ortega, the dictator there, current dictator in Nicaragua, has declared that Nicaragua is now a secular state. There will be no religion. Only the state is all. And you know, people need to understand that you know, communism as an ideology is it's a form of it's slavery. It's enslavement, and you know, people who embrace it because they think either they're going to get free stuff from the government, it comes with a price. So yeah.
So your family, not only did they escape communism in Nicaragua, but your family also had a fighter for freedom in this country.
Yep. And my dad too. My dad fought him too in Vietnam. He did 2 tours in Vietnam. And when he came back from the second one, he was never the same. The second one was bad. He was there for the Tet Offensive, and then he went back again. When he came back the second time, you know, it was you know, it really affected him badly because, you know, some of the stuff he saw over there was just terrible, you know. But that's what this ideology is, communism. You know,
Yes.
yep.
And what is it like for you being an American with this background of escaping communism in your country?
Well, for me, I love my country. This country has provided so much for my family, so much. You know, I listen to the stories from that I've heard from my grandparents and from my dad, and you know, we have our family, the Dona and the Rivera family. We have so much to be thankful for to this country. This is a great nation. It is the greatest nation on the planet, and it's just it really is frustrating, and it angers me when I see people, embracing communism,
Mm.
or they call it socialism, or and it's take for example the Democrat Party today. All of these things are being exposed, whether you talk about the Hunter Biden thing, or the Joe Biden, and all of these decisions that he seems to keep making that benefits the Communist Chinese Party. Now you watch all of this stuff, okay, and you would think that people would wake up and say, this is not right. There's something terribly wrong here, okay? But yet you see the Democrat Party acting just like communists. And how are they acting just like communists? They're monolithic in nature. And what I mean by that is they all join shoulder to shoulder. You can literally show them the corruption, okay, crime, and it's basically, nope, party first. We will deny any truth. We will deny any facts. The party comes first, and that's straight out of the communist playbook. That's how communists think. They're monolithic. That nothing can phase them. I mean, the Democrats today are not Democrats of 40 years ago. I mean, if Tip O'Neill or any of the great Democrat leaders, like John F. Kennedy or Robert F. Kennedy, if any of those people were alive today, they would probably be revolted. They would be repulsed by what the Democrat Party has become. So yeah, it does affect me. It does. It bothers me a lot. I don't like it. I try to speak out at every turn. I especially make it a point to speak to our youth, our young people. Older people have a responsibility to our youth to tell them about the sacrifice that our men and brave men and women done to ensure that our freedoms remain enshrined in perpetuity. And, the school system today is sorely lacking in teaching even basic civics. So I think it's incumbent for every American who loves this country, who believes in this country, and who believes in the men and women who sacrificed to this country, that they speak out. Must speak out. Our First Amendment was placed there first: freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, freedom of the press. It was put there specifically so that we would have the ability to speak to our posterity, our youth, about the dangers of ideologies like communism.
I love it that you are sharing your story, because your family has firsthand knowledge escaping communism in Nicaragua. And Jack, my last question for you: what makes you feel alive?
The thing that makes me feel alive is the Holy Spirit, Christ Almighty. Every day I wake up and I give thanks to the Lord, to Jesus, for all of my bounty, all of my blessings, for the health that my family has, the protection, the security, peace, and that really brings me joy, and it lifts me up. The promise of God, the promise that Jesus gave to all of us of everlasting life through his blood, that gives me joy, and that gives me spirit, and that gives me strength every day.
Wow. Thank you so much, Jack Dona.
You're most welcome. And again, it's a real privilege and an honor. And I hope that this message will inform. And again, it's a great honor, Rachel. Thank you very much, Miss Maldonado.